Bucs fans, my Fear the Bay Gunners, get those cannons ready to fire because we have a huge Week 16 matchup coming up on Sunday that has a lot of playoff implications, of course, tied to it. We have the 7-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers going on the road against the 7-7 Carolina Panthers. The winner of this game heading into the next week, Week 17, would sit on top of the NFC South. I'm going to give you a full game preview on this game, break down the enemy of the Bay, also injuries, who's in, who's out, as well as my keys to the game. If the Buccaneers do these three things, I think they'll come out on top on Sunday. And lastly, I'm going to give you my picks for all the games across Week 16, the NFL. I'm going to give you Adam Slivon's picks in our head-to-head competition. All that and more on this episode of Fear the Bay. Bucs fans, welcome back to another episode of Fear the Bay. I'm your host, Daniel Morales, and unfortunately, take a deep breath with me. Unfortunately, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers suffered a defeat in Week 15 on Thursday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons, and it was a collapse. The Buccaneers were up 28-14, and they collapsed. They choked this game. There were so many issues to go around, from energy to player execution to scheme. There's quite a few issues. We knew all the curses coming into this game. We knew about the primetime curse and the Buccaneers' lack of ability, throughout the past few years to win in those primetime games. We knew about the creamsicle curse. It was the first time the Buccaneers were going to wear the orange creamsicles this season. And we know the history with those orange creamsicle jerseys. And also of course, how can we forget the Kirk Cousins curse? Kirk Cousins, he had 4 starts coming into this game in Week 15. 4 starts combined. He had 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He had 3 touchdowns alone against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 15. So he matched his entire touchdown total for the season in just one game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Kyle Pitts, a man who is... He's heading into free agency, or he could potentially be re-signed by the by the Atlanta Falcons. He had a monster game. He had one of the best games for tight ends in some time. He had 3 touchdowns on the game also. There was a lot of frustration after the game. Mike Evans was as frustrated as I probably could ever recall seeing him. Todd Bowles was definitely frustrated. I'm going to play a clip here of his rant after the game to the media, but it was something I've never seen before, and we'll talk about fully after I show you the clip here if you haven't seen it already. But man, you would have thought at times in this game, because of the lack of energy, the lack of fight, that the Atlanta Falcons were the team that were actually fighting for their playoff hopes, fighting to stay in the race, fighting to stay on top of the NFC South. And the Buccaneers were the team that were already eliminated. That's what you would have thought if you didn't know anything about the standings. But no, it was actually the opposite, of course. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're the team fighting to enter the playoffs. They're the team fighting to win their division. That's pretty bad, but that's a whole different conversation to have. But they're the team that were fighting to stay in the top of NFC South race. And the Atlanta Falcons, they were eliminated a few weeks ago, I believe December 11th, against the Seattle Seahawks. So they were already eliminated, and their coach is fighting for his job, Raheem Morris. And it's a team that isn't going anywhere this season. They know this, and they fought harder than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, unfortunately. Now, I want to get to this clip of Todd Bowles, his comments after the Week 15 loss on Thursday Night Football. And this is Fear the Bay. Historically, this is a family-friendly show. I'm a father. I don't like a lot of the cursing that you would hear in most programs nowadays. But if you have kids, you might want to skip the next 30 seconds, mute, cover their ears, whatever you think you need to do. But I'm going to play this clip now, but warning again, if there's kids around, or if you don't want to hear yourself all these curse words, you might want to skip a little bit forward, okay? But let me play the clip right now.
What do you tell them in the locker room after a game like this?
It's inexcusable. You don't make excuses. You got to fucking care enough where the shit hurts. You got to fucking care enough where the shit hurts. It got to fucking mean something to you. It's more than a job. It's your fucking livelihood. How well do you know your job? How well can you do your job? Well, you can't sugarcoat that shit. It was in the fucking excusable, and there's no fucking answer for it. There's no excuse for it. That's what you tell them in the locker room. Look in the fucking mirror.
You got to look in the mirror. That was probably my favorite quote there out of all the expletives, all the the comments there by Todd Bowles. And my initial reaction, my immediate reaction when I heard this on Thursday night was that this is a man who he knows now that, you know, his job could potentially be on the line. And, you know, it's a guy who is a little bit desperate. You know, that's what I would assume. He's desperate because he knows his job is on the line. And he's not holding any more punches back. He's not holding anything back. Todd Bowles has historically been a guy who doesn't throw his players under the bus. And that's kind of what he did there. He essentially, at one point throughout the press conference, states that the coaches, they did their job, and the players didn't do what they need to do to win this game. And they need to look in the mirror. They got to know that they want this. You know, they got to actually want to win, essentially. And you know, of course, a lot of the talk after, and I knew this once the Buccaneers were collapsing and once they officially lost, were the fire Todd Bowles chants were going to get louder and louder and louder. And Todd Bowles walking off the football field on Thursday night, who was rained down, showered down with a bunch of boos from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. And that's okay. That, you know, the fans, anybody can say, everybody has their own opinion. For me, I haven't listened to Tampa media this entire week, essentially. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if people are calling for, you know, media members are calling for Todd Bowles to be fired or whatnot. And in my opinion, you know, I'm not going to just go with whatever the mob wants me to go with. I have my own opinions, and my opinion is coaching is an issue, but what's the bigger issue right now? It's not Todd Bowles. It is the players. He is right. He's on to something there. It is the players. It comes down to execution. The Buccaneers had the Atlanta Falcons in a 3rd and 28 situation that got sliced in half to 4th and 14. I can't recall who it was. I believe it was Kendall Vildor, and he gets beat for the first down. That comes down to players. There was a point in the game when Kyle Pitts was 1-on-1 against Antoine Winfield Jr. Antoine Winfield Jr. lost that battle. I mean, look at the interception by Baker Mayfield. D. Alford, the nickel corner, he disguises his coverage. He drops back, does something that Baker admitted that he hasn't seen him do before on film. And it wasn't an underthrow. He just got fooled. Baker Mayfield got fooled. That's not on Josh Broussard. That's not on Todd Bowles. That is on the players. That is on execution. And that isn't to say that I know a lot of people are getting angry. I'm not calling for Todd Bowles to be fired here. I don't think that is a solution right now, okay? That's not going to fix the issues that this team has. The issues right now, the biggest issue comes down to player execution. I think the only gripe I have with the whole Todd Bowles press conference was that the fact that as a leader, as a head coach, and I get it, he's angry, he's saying his raw emotions, not holding any more punches back. But as a leader, you go down with the ship. If you're the captain of the ship, you go down with the ship. And he didn't do that. He did throw his players under the bus. So that is my one gripe with his press conference, that he essentially said the coaches, we did our job. The players, they didn't do their job. And Baker Mayfield is a perfect example of what a leader does in that situation. He put the loss on him, and that is true. Now, I like that from Baker Mayfield. He's putting the loss on him, and that's what you do. Even if you don't feel like the loss actually was on you, which in a way was partly on Baker Mayfield for throwing that interception late in the game, not helping the chances to increase the lead, put this game out of reach. That's my one gripe with this Todd Bowles press conference, that he didn't do what a true leader, I believe, what a true leader should do. If I was in that situation, even if I don't believe the loss was on me, I'm putting the loss on my shoulders and I'm going down with the ship. Even if that means I get fired in 3 weeks, I don't care. I'm looking out for my players, and I'm going to keep their respect in that manner. I'm not saying that Todd Bowles has lost the locker room, but talking about the locker room, there was a lot of talk about players aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing throughout the week, and that came from a few guys, but especially Gerald McCoy, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, defensive tackle, and his best friend, one of his close friends, is, of course, Lavonte David, who still is in the locker room. And what he's saying is players aren't doing necessarily what they're supposed to be doing throughout the entire week. He's saying a lot of people are calling for Todd Bowles to be fired, but players aren't doing the things they're supposed to be doing throughout the entire week to make sure that they are prepared and they're ready to play. And, of course, that leads to a lack of execution on Sunday. Some of the players' minds on this team are elsewhere. I came on here 2 weeks ago after the Arizona Cardinals game, and I talked about the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are lacking a vocal leader, especially on defense, a guy that's going to hold people accountable, hold men accountable in that locker room. If a guy like Zion gets bored, who is now an IR, but your $16 million CB1, he gets bored out there, his technique slips, somebody to get in his face and to, hold him accountable. Remember, look at Tom Brady. He was a guy who would just get in your face. He didn't care. You can't do that kind of stuff in real life. It can go a little bit, sideways. But on the football team, the chemistry, the idea, the culture is a little bit different. These circumstances are different, of course. I came on here a few weeks ago saying that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are lacking a vocal leader, and they need one. I named quite a few guys. Devin White before. We know how that story ended, but Devin White was a vocal leader on this team. Guy like KJ Britt, now he couldn't back it up. He was a run stopper, but he was a liability in coverage. We talked about that. But since that dialogue I had, since the comments about the Buccaneers lacking a vocal leader, they brought back two of the guys I mentioned were vocal leaders, and that was JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, is back on the team. He's on the practice squad. We'll see if he's elevated this week to help the team out. And also Anthony Walker Jr., former Miami Dolphins player, inside linebacker. He was with this team early on in the offseason throughout OTAs. He was injured. The Buccaneers moved on from him, but he's been on the Indianapolis Colts practice squad ever since. But somebody to hold these guys accountable is what this team needs. This team has an edge rush need, inside linebacker need, a cornerback need. Of course, I'm talking specifically just on defense. But they also need to find a guy who's also a true vocal leader, because these guys you just brought in, JPP, Anthony Walker Jr., unfortunately, they're not going to really be able to, they're going to be talking, but they're not going to be able to back it up with their play. I wouldn't want somebody chirping at me and they're not backing it up with their play. They're not preaching what they're saying. They're not producing on the football field enough where it warrants them getting in your face. That's the issue that I have. I like the moves, but a little bit, too late, and they're not going to produce for you. What JPP hasn't had a sack since 2022, 2023. It's not going to work. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't expect much production at JPP, but it's good to have him back on the team. But some of the players on this team, their minds are elsewhere, as I hinted to previously. And if you need any further, Jordan McCord talked about, issues in the locker room in terms of players not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But if you need any more, insight, clarification on an example of what could be going on, I'll just look at a guy like Rachaad White. Rachaad White, who he lost his starting running back position last season when Bucky Irving surpassed him, because Rachaad White has a bit, he's a little bit too, he has happy feet out there sometimes. He's bouncing around instead of hitting the hole and going north. He lost his job, and, he had a post in the offseason saying last ride. And for me, I understood that was him saying, he's in a contract year. This is going to be it. This is the last ride with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When media asked him about it, he played it off, said he was listening to country music. Over the last few days, he has posted quite a bit of content of him and Jaden Daniels on his Instagram stories. And he's pretty much signaling, hey, I'm going to be a Washington Commander next year. And if you go through one of his latest posts, and you look at the comments, all the comments that are saying, oh, I can't wait for you to be a Washington Commander. Can't wait for you to join Washington. Wait for you to be a Commander next year. He's liking all of those comments. This is a guy who's currently on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and envisioning, dreaming of being on an entirely different team. This is what I'm talking about when it comes down to players, their minds being elsewhere. The execution lacks when your mind isn't fully, focused on the task at hand. If I was Jason Light, if I'm Todd Bowles, Rachaad White, you wish to be on the Washington Commanders, well, guess what? We're not going to cut you, because then you can go get claimed. You can go and help out a different team. What we're going to do is we're going to bench you. You want to be on a different team so bad? That's okay. We're going to bench you. All the reps that would have gone to you are now going to go to Sean Tucker, and then you could just ride the bench. You could be a bench warmer for the entire season. Make sure the bench stays warm for a guy like Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker. But they need to send a message with Rachaad White. What is this? That he's dreaming of being on an entirely different team. This reminds me of the Devin White days, when Devin White is posting pictures of himself, Photoshop pictures of himself in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform while still being a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. The issue isn't Todd Bowles right now. The issue is players and player execution, okay? And I hope they turn this thing around because there's only 3 more games guaranteed. If you can't turn this ship around pretty quickly here, if you can't turn it around starting this week against the Carolina Panthers, who are tied 7-7, you're going to have a lot of issues, and changes might come at any level. Let's get now to the game preview. Let's break down the enemy of the Bay, the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are a young team who's hungry, and they're led by the former offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2023. That was Dave Canales. Dave Canales is there now. He has Brad Isaac, who's one of his close friends, his best friend. He's his offensive coordinator. And their QB1, of course, is Bryce Young. He's a young, understatured. He's a little bit smaller quarterback. I know some Atlanta Falcons fans, they don't like his leadership ability. That's an issue for them. But this season, he has 2,500 yards, passing yards, 63.33 completion percentage. That is a career high for him. 19 touchdowns. That is also a career high for him. 9 interceptions and an 88.4 passer rating. That is a career high for him. So Dave Canales, these numbers don't blow you away, but Dave Canales is getting right now the best out of Bryce Young. And those numbers, they don't blow you away, but guess what? They were very close to the current numbers of quarterback Baker Mayfield for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, he has 2,999 yards, so 4,999 yards more than Bryce Young, but that's the only metric that's kind of far away from him. In terms of completion percentage, again, Bryce Young has a 63% completion percentage. Baker Mayfield has a 61.2% completion percentage. 19 touchdowns for Bryce Young, 22 touchdowns for Baker Mayfield. 9 interceptions for Bryce Young, 7 interceptions for Baker Mayfield. 88.4 passer rating for Bryce Young, 90.6 passer rating for Baker Mayfield. So Baker Mayfield and Bryce Young, they're 2 different quarterbacks, of course, but their stats are very, very, very similar. They're almost playing at an identical level. They're almost playing exactly the same in terms of overall production. And also, Bryce Young, throughout his first 2 seasons, 2023 and 2024, the Carolina Panthers had 6 wins in total. This year, they've surpassed those 2 years combined, and now, of course, have 7 wins. So Dave Canales, he has Bryce Young playing at the best he's played at throughout his entire career so far. The running back position. So Chuba Hubbard, they paid him this offseason. But Rico Dowell, he's the one who really is a true RB1 on this team. He was a 1K yard rusher last year for the first time in his career with the Dallas Cowboys. Got signed to the Carolina Panthers this offseason. 1 year, $2.75 million contract. That was a steal. Really good deal there. Now this season, he's very close to breaking that 1K. He's going to break it around this game, of course. He has 9 downs, and that'll be an insane year for running back. 978 yards, 6 touchdowns. That is a career high for him on the ground. He has a long of 53 this season. That is a career long there. And he's averaging 4.7 yards per carry. And then as a receiving threat, 30 receptions, 259 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Not too much there in terms of overall production as a receiver, but he hurts you on the ground. That's where he hurts you the most. All right, there's an rated story. I don't think it's being talked about enough. This story between Tet McMillan and Emeka Buka for Rookie of the Year. These 2 guys could potentially win Rookie of the Year, and their stats are almost identical. Just like Young and Baker Mayfield's stats are very close. They're almost identical. Tet McMillan and Emeka Buka, their stats this season, the rookie year, are very, very close. Tet McMillan out of Arizona, a big body wide receiver, 6'5", 212, essentially a little bit slimmer of a Mike Evans. And Todd Bowles said this week that Tet McMillan reminds him of Mike Evans. Tet McMillan this season, 59 receptions. Emeka Buka this season, 58 receptions. Tet McMillan, in terms of yards, receiving yards, Tet McMillan has 851 receiving yards. Emeka Buka has 870 receiving yards. Ted McMillan has 6 touchdowns on the season. Emeka Buka has 6 touchdowns on the season. So their stats are very, very similar, almost fully identical here. These next 3 games, if one breaks out over these next 3 games, has, monster games, they can really be in the top running for Rookie of the Year. Both of these guys should be able to surpass 1K yards their rookie season. Let's see if it happens, though. All right, Xavier Legette, he's in his 2nd year now out of South Carolina. He's a wide receiver too. He has 30 receptions, 326 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. 66 combined yards over his past 3 games. I haven't paid too close, I haven't paid close attention to his career at all, so I don't really know what's going on with him, but he was a high draft pick, and he's not living up to his, high draft status there. He was their 1st or 2nd round pick last year. And this season, he only has 2 games where he has surpassed 80 receiving yards and barely surpassed 80. So, Jalen Cocker here, he's the wide receiver 3. He's a big body receiver also. Ted McMillan, 6'5". Xavier Legette, 6'3". Jalen Cocker, he's 6'3" also. 22 receptions, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns on the season. So outside of Ted McMillan, they're not getting much, production out of their other receivers or even tight ends that we're going to get into right now. The Carolina Panthers have this offseason a need at the tight end position, in my opinion. They have 2 guys here who are not really true tight end ones. They have Tommy Tremble. Tommy Tremble has 199 yards, 1 touchdown on the season. And then Jatavion Sanders, he's in his 2nd year. He's 6'4", 252. He has 27 receptions, 181 yards, no touchdowns. Tight end is a need there. But you never know. These guys could break out, but the tight end position for the Panthers is a weakness there. So really, their only true receiving threat is their wide receiver 1, Ted McMillan. All right, so on the offensive line, the tackles are pretty solid here. Left guard, Damian Lewis, he's also really solid. He's ranked as Damian Lewis left guard. He has a 77.9 overall PFF grade. He's ranked as the 34th overall guard in the entire, the 6th guard overall guard in the entire league. He's ranked as the 3rd best pass blocking guard in the entire league also. Really, the weaknesses on this offensive line for the Carolina Panthers comes at center and right guard. Right guard because of the fact that Robert Hunt, he got signed. Remember, he was last offseason, he was one of their big signings from the Miami Dolphins to help fix that offensive line. He got injured in September with a left bicep injury that kept him out, and it's going to continue to keep him out for the entire season. Austin Herbert, he's filling in his spot at right guard. He's a versatile offensive lineman. This season, he's played left guard, center, and right guard, all 3 positions inside of the offensive line. And then Cade Mays at center hasn't done too well for himself either. He has a 61.8 overall PFF grade. So looking at this offense, really, who's the biggest threat? It's Rico Dowell. It's the running back there. It's also Ted McMillan. Those are your main 2 skill players who are going to pose issues for this offense. I would expect much out of Xavier Legette, but again, you never know if these guys can take off. But to me, it's just those 2 guys. If you can stop Rico, if you can stop Ted, if you can at least stop one of them, you really minimize their production on offense. And in terms of overall production on offense, I just want to get to this point real quick here. The Carolina Panthers, they are scoring only 18.9 points per game. That ranks 28th. They're almost at the bottom of the league in terms of points per game scored. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're not doing too well, but they're averaging 23.4 points per game, which is tied for 15th best in the entire league, or tied for 15th in the entire league. Let's get now to the defense and special teams for the Carolina Panthers. Bucs fans, want to know how you can help this channel, Fear the Bay, continue to grow and expand? Well, all you have to do are 3 simple things, and they're absolutely free. And what are those things, you might be asking? Well, like, subscribe, and comment. Like, subscribe, and comment. When you do that, when you engage with the content, what happens is YouTube's algorithm continues to push this content out to more phenomenal Bucs fans like yourself. So please, if you have not done so already, like, subscribe, and comment. Those things help me out tremendously, and they help our channel, they help our community continue to grow and grow and grow and expand to brand new heights. Let's get back to the video. We definitely do not want to miss that. Baker Mayfield and Josh Brizard, the offensive coordinator, they're going to have to scheme up and execute, of course, against this Carolina Panthers defense. And who are the Panthers putting out there? What is this? Who are these cast of characters for the Carolina Panthers? So, for the Panthers, I like their interior defensive line. A'Shawn Robinson, 6'3", 320 in his 10th year of his career. So a veteran there. He was drafted in 2016 by the Detroit Lions. If you remember the 2016 draft, that was unfortunately the Vernon Hargreaves, the third draft. He ended up being a draft bust. And I was going through the first round pretty recently. A lot of those guys were first round in the first round were bust. And unfortunately for the Buccaneers, Vernon VH3 was one of those. I remember being really excited. It was going to be Brent Grimes on one side. You have VH3 on the other side. Brent Grimes was going to be his mentor. He had all the potential. It just didn't work out. Hustle. He got talk about holding, we talked about in the beginning, holding players accountable. Bruce Arians held Vernon Hargreaves III accountable. He got rid of him. He released him after he believed that he was not hustling and putting out effort on the football team. He wasn't a team player. All right, A'Shawn Robinson. This season, he has 3 batted passes, 27 run stops, 5 QB hits, 2.5 sacks, and 22 pressures. Had a pretty decent, pretty solid year for himself there. Next to him is the big guy on the defensive line. That, of course, is Derek Brown, the big name there. Drafted at Auburn in 2020 in the first round. He's made a Pro Bowl before. He's a one-time Pro Bowler in 2023. This season, he has a 73.6 overall PFF grade. He's ranked as the 17th best defensive lineman. And how does that compare to one of the big-name defensive linemen for the Buccaneers? Well, Vita Vea has a 74.9 overall PFF grade, which is 1.3 overall points higher than Derek Brown. But Vita Vea is ranked as the 11th best defensive lineman in the entire league. Derek Brown this season, 4 sacks from the inside of that defensive line, 7 batted passes, which is most in the league for defensive linemen, or tied for most in the league for defensive linemen, and 24 pressures. So he's going to be a problem. I really like that interior defensive line for the Panthers. At edge rusher, they drafted Nick Scorton in the second round out of Texas A&M. This season so far, he has 3.5 sacks. That is a second round draft pick with 3.5 sacks. And that is more than Hassan Reddick has, the $14 million man Hassan Reddick has this season. Also, talking about Hassan Reddick real quick, let's go back to him in a second, but Nick Scorton has a 66 overall PFF grade. That is higher. That PFF grade is 66 overall, is higher than Yaya Diaby's overall PFF grade and also Hassan Reddick's overall PFF grade. And that's coming from a second round rookie draft pick in Nick Scorton. All right, DJ Wanham, he's the other edge rusher, 6'5", 258, big frame there. He's ranked as the 97th overall edge rusher. He only has 2 sacks on the season, which, again, that 2 sacks is still higher than Hassan Reddick. Whatever. But let's continue going here. Inside linebacker Trevin Wallace, he's going to be out this game. The Panthers have a need at inside linebacker. I would say both teams, the Buccaneers and the Panthers, are going to have a need there at the inside linebacker position. Trevin Wallace is going to be out this game. He's going to be out with a shoulder injury. You have also Christian Roosboom. He was an undrafted free agent in 2020. He's bounced around quite a few teams. The Rams were the team that he spent the most time with from 2021 to 2024. He has a 44.5 overall PFF grade. He's ranked as the 77th best defensive lineman at an 88. So they really need an inside linebacker. This Panthers defense does. But what they don't need are 2 outside corners, because their outside corners are really good. You have J.C. Horn, who's only allowing a 46.6 overall completion percentage when targeted. Jamel Dean is he's allowing a 48.1 overall completion percentage allowed. So both of those guys doing a very good job at making sure whoever they're covering, their guy doesn't get the football. As of December 1st, J.C. Horn leads all cornerbacks and fan Pro Bowl votes. This season, he has 5 interceptions. He's doing really, really well for himself. Mike Jackson, the other outside corner, he's in his 5th year of his career. He was a journeyman cornerback also, played with the Cowboys, played with the Lions, played with the Patriots, played with the Seahawks, now with the Carolina Panthers, joined the team last season. He has a good PFF grade. He has a 73.4 overall PFF grade, 3 interceptions on the season, and he's allowing a 54.9 overall completion percentage when targeted. For him, that is the best of his career. At nickel corner, they have, and excuse me if I mispronounce his name, Shao Smith-Wade. I think I got it correct there. Their nickel corner is allowing this stat blew me away. The nickel corner is allowing a 79.5 overall completion percentage when targeted. That's what, more than 3/4 there. So if you target whoever he's covering, you have I would take those odds. You have a pretty good chance of getting that pass completed. He's allowed 31 receptions on 39 targets. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm targeting whoever he's covering. At the safety position, they have Trayvon Moehrig. He was the 2nd-round pick in 2021 by the Las Vegas Raiders. He had 6 interceptions throughout the 4 years that he was with the Raiders under his rookie contract. This season, he has 1 interception. He has 10 tackle for losses. He's allowing a 78.8 overall completion percentage. Safety is a need also for them. And then Nick Scott, other safety, he's in his 7th year of his career. He's allowing a 63% completion percentage, which is, for him, that's the best of his career, but that's still pretty high. So where are the strengths of this defense for the Carolina Panthers? It's interior defensive line. Nick Scorton definitely has potential, and it's the outside corners. Besides that, they're able to produce with these guys they have out there. But besides that, outside of interior defensive line and outside corner, the other spots are very weak. And the Buccaneers, their players match up better than all these players do. I would take Mike Evans over J.C. Horn any day of the week. Let's get now to our injury report, latest injury news for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers place left guard Ben Bredesen and also cornerback Zion McCollum on IR. They're going to miss the remainder of the regular season. Those 2 guys will be absent, of course, and this game in Week 16. Overall, though, they're relatively pretty healthy, and they're going to get Benjamin Morrison back this week. He's been dealing with a hip injury. He's going to be back this week, it appears. Todd Bowles says he's healthier than at any other point this season. He's ready. He's been mentally and physically preparing himself, getting ready over the last few weeks. He should be in the best position that he's been in overall, and he's going to fill in, possibly, I'm believing, because Zion's out, at the outside corner. He's going to get good, valuable reps over these final 3 weeks of the season. Lavonte David did not practice on Wednesday, was limited on Thursday. He was out there on Friday. Todd Bowles says that he's going to be fine, and he is going to be out there to play in this important Week 16 matchup. Mike Evans, who was limited on Wednesday with his collarbone injury. He did not practice Thursday, but Thursday was a rest day. He will be fine. He'll be out there playing. Cade Otton, limited on Wednesday, practice in full on Thursday. All signs are pointing to him. The official injury report at the time of this recording hasn't been released yet, but I would assume Cade Otton will be out there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. Savasi Dennis practiced in full this week. He should be good to go also. Chris Godwin Jr. missed Thursday, but that was a rest day for him. He should be fine. Tyke Smith practiced in full also. So those are the notable names on the injury report. Let's get to the keys to the game. What do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers need to do to make sure, in my opinion, to make sure that they win on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers and improve to 8-7 on the season? Let's get there now. The first key to the game for me is very, very simple, and it's for the defense. You got to stop the run. You got to stop Rico Dowdle. You got to stop this Carolina rushing attack that has really helped this team garner quite a few wins this season, of course. And Rico Dowdle, he's in line for a pretty big payday this offseason, I would assume. Whether it comes for Carolina or a different team, I think he's lining himself up for a pretty big payday. Stop the run. The Carolina Panthers rushing attack in terms of yards per game ranked 9th overall in the entire league. They're averaging 125.6 yards per game on the ground. You got to stop this top 10 rushing attack by the Carolina Panthers. Stop the run. That needs to be your first and most important thing to do here. Stop the run. Force the young quarterback Bryce Young to win this game with his arm. Put the pressure on him. All right, second key to the game is you got to feed Mike Evans. We saw what Mike Evans did out there last week. Mike Evans returned and showed everybody that he is a superstar, elite wide receiver. He's a future Hall of Famer, potentially future first ballot Hall of Famer. Returned last week, had 6 receptions, 162 yards. Last time these two teams faced each other in 2024, he had 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. I would expect a very big game from Mike Evans, and he was very angry after the game also. He was crashing out about the 3rd and 28. He was screaming about that heading into the locker room. He was screaming about that on the sideline also. This is a guy who, he's angry. He wants to win. Who knows how much longer he has left. He doesn't want to be out of the playoffs. He wants to be in the playoffs. He wants to be fighting for a second ring. He wants to win the championship again. He has a championship mentality. That's how you should be playing. That's the fire that he has. Todd Bowles even said it. Mike Evans is one of the guys who actually cares. He's one of the guys who you don't need to motivate. He's one of the guys who cares. He's one of the guys who, he wants it. He wants to win. But you got to feed Mike Evans. And my last key to the game is Baker Mayfield needs to be more accurate. We're far away from the MVP Baker chance that we were hearing earlier on this season, the first quarter and some of the season. We're far away from that. He needs to be a more accurate passer. These passes, sometimes he's throwing to Mike Evans last game sometimes, like if he's not 6'5", but 9'5". I mean, these passes need to come down. They need to be on target. He needs to be a more accurate passer. I'm sure there has to be some nagging injury. We know the left shoulder injury, but Josh Grizzard said at this point he's healthier than he has been in a long time. He needs to be more accurate. He needs to be accurate because his accuracy issues are holding this team. One of the things holding this team back on offense, I would say. When we look at an advanced metric here, on-target percentage, on-target throws to receivers when we exclude any things like spikes or throws thrown out of bounds on purpose, thrown away. Baker Mayfield's on-target percentage is 72.4 this season. 72.4% of his passes have been on target. Now, that sounds like when you think in your head, okay, when you think about grade-wise, that's a C, that sounds pretty good, it doesn't sound too bad. Where does that compare him to the rest of the quarterbacks in the league? Well, that places him 30th amongst all quarterbacks in the entire league. He's ranked 30th when it comes to on-target percentage throws. He hasn't been on target this season. That's been a very big issue. He hasn't thrown the interceptions. That was an issue last season. But he hasn't put up the touchdowns. He hasn't put up the yards he put up last season. He definitely hasn't been as accurate as he'd been last season also. So those are my 3 keys to the game. You got to stop the run. You got to stop this 9th ranked rushing yard attack for the Carolina Panthers. You got to feed Mike Evans. Go feed Mike Evans out there. Throw him. You can't just solely throw it to him, but feed him the ball. Get this guy the ball. He was making plays out there in his first game back. There was no rust on Mike Evans. And lastly, you got to make sure that Baker Mayfield himself needs to make sure that he is a more accurate passer. Maybe that comes down also to Josh Grizzard, getting him into rhythm early. I don't think Josh Grizzard has done a good job at that. Getting him little easy passes early on, building up his confidence as the game progresses, and then taking those shots into the middle of the field and then deeper down the field throughout the game. But Baker Mayfield needs to be more accurate moving forward. All right, let's get now to the picks. All the games across the NFL. I'm going to give you my picks. I'm going to give you Adam Slivon's picks for all those games. We have this week-to-week matchup, this competition. There's been a lead change. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's get there now. All season, we've been competing. Me and Adam Slivon have been competing to see who's going to have the better overall record at the end of the season when it comes to predicting the games for all the games across the NFL every single week. And we finally have a lead change. I have finally gave the lead after quite a bit of time. It's been neck and neck all season, but I finally have taken over the lead. And unfortunately, the lead is only a 1-game lead, so there's not much there. Got to continue to hit on these picks here. Let's see if I do so this week. Again, if you're not following Adam, go follow Adam at Adam Lives On, Adam Livson on X and Instagram. He's one of the smartest minds, I would say, one of the smartest, most informed minds in the Tampa media realm, I would say. Make sure you go follow him if you haven't done so already. A really great guy, tremendous guy. So there's 2 games that we disagree on this week. In my overall record, I said I had a 1-game lead. My overall record is 148 wins, 75 losses, 1 tie on the season. And for Adam, his overall record is 147 wins, 76 losses, 1 tie. So again, only a 1-game lead here. And again, there's 2 games we disagree on. The Thursday night football game, we both, the Rams versus the Seahawks, we both took the Rams in that game. The Seahawks ended up winning in overtime, so we both got that game wrong. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington Commanders. The Commanders have shut down Jaden Daniels for the entire season. He's dealing with the elbow injury again. We're both taking the Eagles in this matchup, who won in a blowout fashion against the Raiders last week. Green Bay Packers, who they lost Micah Parsons, versus the Chicago Bears. We're both taking the Green Bay Packers in that matchup. Your Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Carolina Panthers. We're both in agreement. The Buccaneers are going to increase their overall record to 8-7 after this week. The Buffalo Bills versus the Cleveland Browns. That's a pretty simple one. We're both taking the Buffalo Bills. The LA Chargers versus the Dallas Cowboys. We're in agreement there. The Chargers are going to win that matchup. The New York Jets versus the New Orleans Saints. Tyler Shuck has put back-to-back good performances in, beat the Bucs, of course, beat the Carolina Panthers. Now let's see if they win 3 games in a row and they're able to win against the New York Jets. We both think they are going to. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the Tennessee Titans. And the Chiefs lost Patrick Mahomes to a torn ACL for the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era in Kansas City. The Chiefs are eliminated from the playoffs. So it's going to be a little bit weird watching the playoffs this season and the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes not being a part of the conversation. But they're out of it. They're going to be watching instead of being a part of the playoffs this year. The Cincinnati Bengals versus the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, who the Buccaneers are seeing next week, they made a change at the quarterback position, going with Quinn Ewers, the quarterback out of Texas, rookie. They benched Tua, of course. We're both taking Joe Burrow and the Bengals to win that matchup. This is a good one here. The Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Denver Broncos. And it's kind of like a sneaky good one. We're both taking the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are really good this season. Bo Nix, the offensive line, the entire team. Sean Payton has done a good job with the turnaround, turning that whole franchise around. They've done a really good job. I'm taking, and Adam is as well, we're both taking the Denver Broncos to win that game. Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Detroit Lions. We're in agreement, the Lions there. Las Vegas Raiders versus the Houston Texans. We're both taking the Texans. The Patriots versus the Ravens. We're both taking the Patriots there. The 49ers versus the Colts. The Colts brought back last week Phillip Rivers. He's starting the game against the Seattle Seahawks. Lost the game, but 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, it's that old era quarterback, quarterback I grew up with, the Drew Brees, the Phillip Rivers, the Ben Roethlisbergers, Aaron Rodgers, of course, the Tom Brady's of the world, Peyton Manning's, those guys. But we're both taking the 49ers to win that game against the Colts. All right, the 2 games we could disagree on. The Minnesota Vikings versus the New York Giants. That's the first one. I'm taking the Vikings in that game. The Vikings won last week against the Cowboys, I believe. Adam Slivon is taking the Giants to win that matchup. And then also the Atlanta Falcons versus the Arizona Cardinals. Jacoby Brissett, the Cardinals, they're a solid team. The Buccaneers, they went toe-to-toe with them just a few weeks ago. I'm taking the Falcons to win that matchup. The Falcons have talent. I believe more talent than the Cardinals. Adam Slivon is going to pick the Cardinals to win that matchup. So those are 2 games that we differ. Let's get now to the closure. Let's close out this show here. My Fear the Big Hunters, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I truly appreciate you guys. We recently surpassed 400 subscribers, so I want to thank you guys for that big milestone there. And this is only the beginning for Fear the Bay. There's gonna be some stuff I'm really excited about in the future. But Thank you guys so much for 400 subscribers. Let's continue. If you haven't done so already, please like, please subscribe. That helps boost the algorithm, gets us out to more great Bucs fans like yourself. Big game coming up for the Panthers again and the Buccaneers. It's in Carolina this time. The Buccaneers are going to see this team twice in the next 3 weeks. I believe that the Buccaneers are going to be able to win this game, though. I think that they are the better team overall, or at least on paper, they should be the better team, right? But it's going to come down to a few things, including player execution. That is going to be very important this week. Let's see what happens. But until then, I'm your host, Danny Morales, signing out. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.